What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Ancient Cricks Podcast. In this episode, we'll be going into witchcraft in Europe.
And if you don't remember, I'm Ada.
I'm Savvy.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Emmett, and we're the Ancient Cricks Podcast.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about witchcraft in Europe. And so it started in the 1500s and to 1650s.
But it was actually unclear when they fully came on the historical scene.
And around 100,000 people went to trials, and most of them were found guilty and were executed.
People who practice witchcraft and called on spirits to bring change, that's what people thought witches were and would accuse them of doing.
They were known for doing the devil's work.
So their crimes were practice of harmful magic and making deals with the devil. And there was like some witch trial tests where they declared witchcraft. Wait.
There were just some very crazy trials and tests. And actually, in England, they declared that witchcraft is a crime in 1542.
Yeah, they were also called like wise women. So if you were a wise woman, you'd be considered a witch in doing the devil's work.
And in England, there were like 513 trials and then 112 executions. But like in France, there were more trials, like 2,000 of them. And most women weren't convicted, but had to live the rest of their lives surrounded by suspicion and fear.
France actually had like way more than other countries, for example, Spain and Italy. And actually, the one who's helped stop the trials was Louis XIV, who we actually talked about in the last episode. What was he called again? Do you guys remember?
He was the Sun King.
Sun King.
So the earliest record of witchcraft in the Bible was 1 Samuel 28. And that's where Saul had expelled all the mediums and witches from the land. But then a Philistine army had set up camp nearby and he got scared. God wouldn't answer him, so he went to Endor to find a witch. And he went in disguise. So he got the lady to bring the spirit of the prophet Samuel to advise him. And Samuel's spirit rebuked him, saying it was happening because Saul didn't listen to God. He forced her to cook for him and then left.
So he was looking for a witch?
Yeah, and I mean, that just shows that witchcraft has been around for a long time. It's not just in the history books, it's also in the Bible. So that's definitely something. I feel like we should talk about, since we're already talking about the Bible, should we talk about what the Bible has to say about witchcraft?
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea. So in 2 Chronicles 33, verse 6, Manasseh, king of Judah, sacrificed his children in the fire in the valley of Ben Hinnom, practiced divination and witchcraft, sought omens, and consulted mediums and spiritists. He did much evil in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger. And then in Leviticus 19:31, do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, because you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. So I think the Bible is saying that you seek God first and not go to mediums and spiritists.
Yeah, and also in Leviticus 20:27, it says, "A man or woman who is a medium or spiritist among you must be put to death. You are to stone them. Their blood will be on their own heads." So basically, the Bible is just very against witchcraft.
And it's also
That's what the people in Europe took to heart. They were all Christians, and they're like, they heard the Bible talk about how they should kill witches, so that's why they went out and hunting, I think.
Yeah, but I think maybe they went a bit too far, because I don't think all of them were practicing witchcraft, because like even Joan of Arc. Let's talk about Joan of Arc actually, guys. Joan of Arc was just a 17-year-old girl at the time who heard from the Lord, and it was beyond priesthood, right?
Yeah.
Can you guys explain? I kind of forgot.
So basically, she wasn't a priest, but she experienced the presence of God. So like, usually only the priests and priestesses would experience the presence of God and be in the temple, but she claimed to have experienced they're outside of priesthood.
And then the Piu peasants in medieval France believed that Joan was sent by God, and she believed that she had divine guidance to lead the army. And then so she led the army at 17, and she brought the war to victory.
Yeah, and just around the time, Prince Charles was actually crowned King Charles VII, and so after that, Joan was captured by the enemy forces and was held captive in multiple castles after trying to escape.
And
Yeah.
when once of her escape attempts, she jumped into a moat and got knocked unconscious.
Yeah, she was later tried for witchcraft and then burned at the stake at 19. And there were actually 70 charges against her, which were eventually brought down to 12. And they were just crazy things like, oh, she wore men's clothing, or she thought God's orders were more important than the church's. And they got mad at her, so then she got burned at the stake.
And it's crazy because she helped them win the war, and then they were like, "Oh, you're a girl, Eh, and so you must be a witch."
Yeah. Well, as she was dying though, they read her assurances for salvation, so they made sure she went to heaven. So even though they hated and wanted to kill her, they made sure that she got to heaven.
Which like seems nice in theory, but it's also like she had to ask them to read the assurances. So it's like, oh, they'll do this one last favor as you're literally being burned at the stake by them.
Let's get into witchcraft in other countries compared to Europe. So like the rescue trials that happened in Narive, Spain. No, Navarre, Spain.
Those are also known as the trial of the witches of Zugarramurdi or something like that, or the largest witch hunt in world history. And it happened from 1609 to 1614. And then 2,000 to 7,000 people were accused of witchcraft. 6 were executed, 5 were burned after being tortured. And luckily, the chief examiner became suspicious and had the court rewrite the rules of witch trials.
Which was great because after that, Spain had way less trials, unlike the rest of Europe. And witchcraft wasn't only in Europe.
Yeah, it was also in America, like the Salem witch trials. It started when a 9-year-old girl named Elizabeth started screaming with no control and fits, and then more and more of young girls started having the same symptoms. People thought they were bewitched, and older women were accused of witchcraft.
Yeah. It actually began in the spring of 1692. And Salem was a very Puritan community, which is like strict about religious codes and rules. And they were still dealing with the after effects of a war with the British, right? Which was
Yeah.
like the smallpox epidemic, and they're just the fear that the Native American tribes around them would attack. So it was just a very difficult time.
I feel like I'd be like so upset because my kid obviously has this illness, and all they're saying is witch, witch, witch.
Yeah, I can see like why the parents were so hysterical about it and just trying to fix. Oh, like we need to find out what's wrong with my kid.
Yeah, not only that, a group of young girls claimed that they were possessed by the devil, like after they were having uncontrollable, violent fits, and even a local doctor said they were bewitched. So that just influenced a lot of the girls. Like just because, sorry, what was her name? Elizabeth started her symptoms, all the girls were kind of probably scared, and maybe they were self-diagnosing.
Yeah, I think just noticing what's happening around you and like you can even if it's not actually happening, you can make yourself think it is, and it's like a placebo that like, oh, I think I have this. So I think they might have not actually been bewitched, just they acted like it.
Yeah, there was just a lot of the women that were interrogated were like poor women that just didn't have they didn't have like any money to like, I don't know if they had lawyers back then, but like to be like, no, I'm not a witch at all. Like they had nothing to prove that. And so they more women started to be accused, and they started having the trials, and some of them confessing. um, but that led to a lot of them being in jail, and a lot of them actually died in jail, and they got hanged a lot.
I think just because they were at the bottom of the social class, they were just targeted more. So like they wouldn't target men as much, but more just women and then also slaves because they were at a lower part of the social class, so they were seen as little less. So that's probably why they were
Yeah.
targeted. And also, so I think some of them confessed just because of all the pressure from the interrogations, and probably there was torture and other stuff. So that's why. So sometimes people might confess, but they're not even guilty. They are just really pressured into it, and they're just fearful, so they confess something they didn't do.
Yeah, so overall, witchcraft is just not a good thing. It
Yeah.
was very, what's the word for it? Disturbing, I feel like.
Yeah, it's just it's, it's like not a great thing to talk about, and because of it, people were killed. And so it's just fear and superstition mixed with this evil demonic type of stuff that they did. So it wasn't a great thing.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we have to wrap up. We have a couple minutes left, but this will be a two-part series, and we'll continue it sometime next week. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you.